everyone? Welcome to the show. This is going to be a good one. I'm excited. And it's Colonize. What's up, David? How's it going? Welcome, everyone, to the chat. And no, Paul, there's no difference right now between a sponsor. There's a little bit of a sponsor and a member. You're a member because of some of the things we're doing with Twitch. It is calling a lot of our members sponsors, so don't worry about that. You're a member, so don't worry about what's going on with that. But welcome everyone to a show. I'm really looking forward to this. What's up, Logan? I haven't seen Logan in chat, so if you've been around, let me know how long you've been. But welcome to the Cutback Colony. This is going to be a very exciting one. You're a YouTuber. What's up? This is going to be a good one. We're going to be talking about the 49ers offensive line and what it's going to look like. And I'm really excited to have this conversation because I do believe the 49ers are going to have, some things going on. An Android user says this sounds sketchy. Hopefully not. But we've been kind of dealing with some stuff with the sound lately, so potentially there could be something. But we're going to keep working through it. But welcome everyone to the chat. I'm excited about this conversation, and I think the first part of it that we have to talk about is Alex Mack. I mean, that's the biggest question moving forward right now. Is Alex Mack going to be the center? We'll see. We'll see what's going to happen with that. I don't know for sure if that's going to happen. I don't know if Alex Mack is going to be the guy, but we're going to find out. And we're having some problem with the sound apparently. I apologize for that. Okay, it's sounding sketchy or scratchy. Really sorry about the sound. But one of the things that I'm looking forward to is Alex Mack. And Alex Mack is a player the 49ers definitely need on their team. He's a player that the San Francisco 49ers definitely need to have. And so hopefully he comes back. I don't know if that's something that's going to happen, if Alex Mack is going to return. And right now the 49ers have tried to find a way to insulate themselves in case. And there's been a lot of different thoughts on this, and a lot of people have different opinions on what will happen with that center position if Alex Mack comes back or not. That is what's going to be interesting. And David Campbell says, will Cutback Alex be on the team? That's a good question for sure. I think that there's something to that. Alex is on a little bit of a break right now. If you guys haven't noticed, he hasn't been around this week, and he's on a little bit of a hiatus. He'll be returning at some point, and right now I'm holding down the fort as best as I can. One thing to remember when it comes to Alex Mack is that he's been playing in the league for a long time. This is a guy that's been taking his time right now during this offseason. He just got married to go ahead and decide what is going to happen with him and this, if he's going to return to football, and if this is something that he really cares to do anymore. I think that when it comes to Alex Mack, he's going to have that choice all to himself, and the 49ers are not going to pressure him too much because they know what he means to this football team if he decides to come back. I'm really hoping that he does decide to come back and then he decides to be a San Francisco 49ers because we do need Mack on this team. I think that they're not ready to proceed on this offensive line without Alex Mack. I'm not one of those firm believers that Daniel Brunskill, is the answer at center if Mack goes away. In fact, I think that they would have to go with a different situation, go with a different player. So I think right now the 49ers did bring in some young guys, and I think that there's a conversation to be had about which one of these young guys could potentially be that center option for the San Francisco 49ers. And I don't know for sure, which guy it's going to be, but I'm really hoping that the San Francisco 49ers, find their guy because right now it is a little bit troublesome that the 49ers haven't been able to locate, which center it's going to be. That's Ant's robot voice. Sorry guys, I apologize for that audio issue. As I'm having a little bit of a robot voice apparently. One thing to remember though is when it comes to Alex Mack and finding this holdover, or the player that's going to take over his spot, is it's probably not going to be anyone that's going to be able to play to the level that Alex Mack played in 2021. So you're going to have a little bit of a fallback there. That's something that's definitely going to happen, and you're probably going to have to just deal with it. So I'm hoping that the 49ers are able to figure this out. Now, what they did in the draft was they went ahead and got certain players. They got Donovan West as an undrafted free agent, but the one that potentially could be playing center is Nick Zakelj. Nick Zakelj is a guy that they drafted out of Fordham who has showed a lot of ability in the film that I've watched and a lot of versatility to be able to play tackle, guard, and potentially center. And that's one thing that I'm really excited to see is if he can be that guy. I'm excited to see, if he can apply the intelligence that he has definitely showed to the football game. And if he can, then he's going to be a really big football player for the 49ers. And I think that in a perfect world, they would like him to sit 1 year behind Alex Mack and then be able to, go back and let him start the year after. But this is going to hinge on Mack. And I think some of the fallout from that's one of the reasons I started with center. Is I wanted to see what the fallout would be once you had that center position taken care of. Alex Mack is a big domino. If he falls in the right place and he's able to, handle the center position again in 2022, then automatically you don't have to worry about Daniel Brunskill moving. If Daniel Brunskill is playing right guard, I think you're excited about that opportunity and potential of him playing there. And now that you have some stability on that offensive line because now you're replacing one guy, and it's a big replace. Laken Tomlinson is not an easy player to replace. He's definitely not easy a guy to replace because of what he added to this football team. And the thing that he added the most was being there every single day. He was there every single day. He was there for every practice. He was there for every game. Laken Tomlinson was very consistent. So I think that the 49ers definitely have to replace that. But if Alex Mack doesn't come back and Daniel Brunskill is sliding over to center, potentially you'd have to worry about that. And I'm sorry, Bay Mac, that they're ecstatic. Yeah, we're having some audio issues here. I'm going to try to work through it the best that I can, and let me see what I can do. Some of the audio real quick. Sorry, guys, but I'm just dealing with a little bit of audio issues here. So hopefully it'll help. But I'm apologizing for that. Paul Saunders says, wondering how much better Brunskill will play with McGlinchey at his side. I think it would make a big difference. I do believe that Mike McGlinchey being back will stabilize the right side, especially if you have Daniel Brunskill there. And that's one of the reasons that I believe that it makes the most sense to keep Daniel Brunskill at right guard. Keeping Daniel Brunskill at right guard will give you the ability to have a stable right side. With Mike McGlinchey coming back, all indications are that he's going to be somebody that's going to be back and ready to handle business there. And I think that having him and having Daniel Brunskill on the right side makes you feel confident about your offensive line, at least on one side. You've got the left side with Trent Williams absolutely taken care of. He's doing a very good job there at the left tackle spot, but you do have some questions around, some of the other guys. So I think potentially, we're going to have some things that are going to happen there on the left side. You have the left guard situation that has to be taken care of. And I don't know who that's going to be right now because, the normal conversation would be that it would be Aaron Banks. You would really think Aaron Banks would be that guy that you could plug and play Aaron Banks after spending a second-round pick on him last year from Notre Dame. But there's no guarantees that it's going to be Aaron Banks because Aaron Banks hasn't proven to be that guy yet. I really hope he can. That's one thing that I'm hoping to see when we go to training camp is that Aaron Banks has stepped up and is getting first-team reps because I think if Aaron Banks is sliding in there and he's getting it done, then I would feel really good about this offensive line, knowing that you have a player that's capable, like Banks, to do that. So Banks would be the easiest option. Now, I'm not sure that's the best option because when it comes down to it, you're just looking for the best player. And Aaron Banks definitely didn't, show anything to the 49ers enough to get on the field last year. And there were questions about Daniel Brunskill, and including Tom Compton, taking that right tackle spot. And Daniel Brunskill could have easily slid over to right tackle. So I think that this is one of those things where the 49ers are looking to build this offensive line, and that's why they felt they had to address it. Now, Colton McKivitz, the guy that's definitely going to be hurt on this interior offensive line. He's going to be one of these guys that is going to make some waves, and he could potentially be the left guard too. So when we're looking for left guard options to replace Laken Tomlinson, I think it starts with Aaron Banks because of the second-round pick last year. And then after that, it goes with, with Colton McKivitz, because Colton McKivitz has definitely been a guy that has showed the ability to do it. And then Spencer Burford. And one thing I saw from Spencer Burford, just in the little rookie mini camp, and whether this means something or not, I don't know. But I've seen him playing with the right hand in the ground. And usually, if you're seeing him take reps with the left hand in the ground, that would mean he was preparing to play left guard. So I'm not sure if that's a little tidbit or just something that, from the film I watched was all I could tell. But I think that Spencer Burford would be a nice option at left guard, and I like the way he plays the aggressive style and the way to get after people at the point of attack, I think would be really nice. So I think that potentially those three options are there for the 49ers at left guard. And I think that's the biggest question after Alex Mack is that. So maybe it will be one of those three guys. I don't know. And I think that potentially this offensive line has some other questions as well because you have Jalen Moore, who you drafted last year, and Jalen Moore could be the swing tackle, which is nice. I thanks, Paul. Yeah, I paid attention to those things because I was an offensive line coach. So knowing how you have to set up and potential of how you're going to block and which way you're going to be using your feet is very important for offensive linemen. So I don't know if that is going to be a thing that's going to be important. If that's going to be a thing that maybe they were just working on him only from the right side right now, and then they're going to transition him to the left side during training camp. I am curious to see how they move because one thing that Chris Forrester did last year was he really kept these guys on one side. He did. I mean, that was the thing, right? With Jalen Moore, when it was time for them to have a right tackle to take over from Mike McGlinchey, they talked about the fact that he hadn't really practiced. Jalen Moore hadn't practiced at right tackle, that he was focused on being the left tackle and being able to get those reps, if Trent Williams went down. So that's one thing that we're seeing is consistently they're keeping guys on certain sides of the ball and not flipping them back and forth all the time. So that is something to continue to watch, see if things change in training camp, and potentially they could. Last year we were at training camp when Colton McKivitz was playing right tackle, and they moved him to left guard and moved Tom Compton to right tackle, which we were kind of flabbergasted by. We didn't expect to see Tom Compton playing the right tackle spot, but he did a really good job. And in fact, Colton McKivitz did better at left guard, and it was a nice move, but something that you didn't expect to see at the time. And right away, that caught our attention, and it ended up being something that paid off in the end of the season. Colton McKivitz, because he had been practicing left guard, was an easy option to take over for Trent Williams at left tackle when Trent was down in Week 18. And then Tom Compton, of course, took over for Mike McGlinchey. There's a little bit of a battle there between him and Jalen Moore, and he ends up getting the job. So those were some things that definitely happened because of different moves that Chris Forrester was willing to make. David Campbell says the 49ers are deeper everywhere. The question is it more quality depth? I am feeling good about this season. It definitely is. I think there's a lot of quality depth for the 49ers. I think that there's more players, everywhere that are better than they were before. That was one of the things that this draft did, is it really did bring in the depth. Adding two players like Burford and Zakelj added very talented players to an already talented roster because we did not have Justin Skule last year. Justin Skule, of course, suffered the injury early on in OTAs and wasn't able to, be able to prepare for the season and play the season. And he was going to be potentially the swing tackle. I know he was going to be in the midst of that, and a guy that had played, decent at times in 2019. And I think they thought they had some potential in Justin Skule. He's going to be back. You have Jalen Moore as another guy now coming into his second year as that depth. Of course, you got Jake Brendel, who's a depth piece at the center position. And then you have all these tackle/guard options between Burford and Colton McKivitz. Of course, you have Aaron Banks as a guard. You have Keaton Sutherland also as a guard option. So there's a lot of depth here, and I believe that the 49ers have definitely went out and got even more depth in the last two drafts. Aaron Banks and Jalen Moore in 2021 and then in 2022, getting Spencer Burford and Nick Zakelj. They have a lot of flexibility and a lot of ability with these guys to move around. And I think some really good football players are not going to make this roster. Last year, one of the things that happened with Colton McKivitz was, he got cut. He just wasn't good enough, and they proved that they're just willing to keep the very best players. And what's up, Gary? 49ers Fogies is in chat. Thanks for coming through. And I think that this offensive line and the way it plays out is real simple. First off, you know what you're going to get at right tackle and left tackle. I do believe Mike McGlinchey is going to be back. He's going to be manning that spot. And then I think Trent Williams is at left tackle. This is my own personal belief, and I don't know how everyone in chat feels about this, but I believe Daniel Brunskill will then be the right guard, whether Alex Mack comes back or not. And Alex kind of disagrees with me a little bit. He believes that Alex Mack, if Alex Mack doesn't come back, that Brunskill will be the center. But I do believe that they're going to keep Brunskill at guard and keep that continuity between him and Mike McGlinchey going. And then that way they're going to do something else at the center position. potentially Jake Brendel. Of course, we do have other players out there that could go out and sign if needed. But I think Brendel would make the most sense with Zakel competing with him. If Zakel or Donovan West was able to take that spot, you go ahead and do it. So I think that that's something that they could do potentially, and maybe that would work. But apparently, I'm having some audio issues. I'll be back in 1 second. All right, I don't know if that helped, but I'm back and ready to talk again. And David Campbell's asking about Aaron Banks. I think that Aaron Banks is a player that the 49ers are definitely interested in being a really good player. So I think that Aaron Banks could slide right in there at left guard if they felt that he was ready to roll. And I'm not sure if he's going to be ready to roll. He did not show himself to be very aware last year. So I think that potentially Aaron Banks could be ready, but I mean, he's got to work on his lateral quickness. That was one of the things that we saw last year for sure. Is that the lateral quickness definitely wasn't there. He was struggling with it, and I think that when it comes down to it, Aaron Banks was going to have to improve in that area. Maurice Hurst absolutely made him look pretty bad. When they had the open practice at Levi Stadium, and then what really stung for Aaron Banks was that he suffered an injury and he wasn't able to develop, and that really hurt as well. Not being able to develop was something that set him back, and we saw him being left off off the the roster, the 46-man roster, and being able to rest for games, and that's not good. And so eventually he was able to work it in. So yeah, I'm sorry, John. The mic is acting weird. Everyone that's coming in, San Francisco, the mic is not working well for me today. Apologies on that. I'm gonna just try to gut this thing out, and then we'll get to it for sure. But yeah, I think that Aaron Banks is one of the ones to watch in training camp, because if he comes out and he dominates and becomes the player that everyone expected him to be, then I'm excited about it. I'm excited about Aaron Banks. I think that he could be a big time player for the Niners, but he didn't really fit the scheme. It wasn't something that he was gonna do well right away, and I think that he had to really work on it. David Campbell says the dancing bear. Yeah. And he's athletic. I mean, he's extremely athletic for a big guy, over 330 pounds, but able to get it. I think that he's a guy that it shows a lot of potential, but right now it's just potential. And I'm sorry, but as a 49er fan, a lot of times I always think to myself, uh-oh, are we going to get a Joshua Garnett situation? Now, I don't believe Aaron Banks is Joshua Garnett by any means. I think he's a good football player. I'm excited about his potential, but I don't know. I don't know what we're going to see. So I think that one thing we're going to have to do is we're going to have to get Aaron Banks out there and see how he looks. But I think in a perfect world, he's your left guard. And I think that if you could roll back, especially if Alex Mack came back, you could get Alex Mack, at the center position, and then roll with some of the other guys. Alex Mack at center, Aaron Banks at left guard, Trent Williams at left tackle, and then Daniel Brunskill and Mike McGlinchey across the line. I think that's a really, really good situation for the 49ers. I think they would have to have some questions, though, about the depth. Who are they going to keep on this team? Because conventional wisdom would be that you would keep Jake Brendel, a guy that's had a lot of ability, and somebody that backed up Alex Mack last year. So I think he could be somebody that's on this 53-man roster, unless it's like I think, and Nick Zakel takes that spot. I think Nick Zakel could take that spot for sure as the backup and understudy. And I think that if he did, then I think Jake Brendel would be off this team. So that's something that we need to watch, because Zakel's ability to play center could potentially decide what happens with Jake Brendel. San Francisco, we're just going to have several, and I mean several breakout players this season, from rookies, undrafted free agents to all pros. This is going to be a special team. I think there is a lot of potential, and I think that Chris Forrester is going to be working with this offensive line again to develop them. And I'm really hoping that he develops them in a big way because they have a lot of potential, and potential is it only gets you so far. I think that you do have to be able to develop these guys, and then they have to go out there and do it. And right now we're excited about potential, but potential doesn't get you anywhere until they actually develop. And we have a question from Android user: do you think drafting Burford and Zakelj will light a fire under Moore and Banks? Well, it better. That's the one thing I know is it better light a fire under you for sure. Because I think that if you don't, you're out right off this team. I mean, the same thing's happening at the cornerback position. And Aubrey Thomas and Deommodore Lenoir better be ready for war. They better be ready to strap it up because if not, they could end up off this roster. And Jag with a $2 super chat. Thanks so much, Jag. Says, Coach, why is it hard to move from left guard to right guard? It's about how you have to play. It's the adjustments of which foot is back. Your sets, everything is different. So if you're playing left guard, you start with your left hand in the ground most times, and then you're going backwards with your left foot, and the way that you're adjusting your body it's just different than playing right guard or right tackle or right side. There is a little bit of an adjustment there. So some guys are more comfortable with their right foot back and being able to kick slide with their right foot, and also the punching power and everything that happens with that. Some people just feel more comfortable. I know I'm one that felt more comfortable with a kick slide coming from the right side. As I'm right-handed, it just felt more natural to me. And left side, I dragged a little bit at times. My technique wasn't as flawless. So sometimes that's a big difference and a big change. Is moving from left to right is not always the easiest thing, but we always hear about it, right? I mean, that's one of the things when players are drafted. They're often said, yeah, they played left tackle in college, but they're going to play right tackle in the NFL. There needs to be time for an adjustment. So I'm hoping that that adjustment comes for a lot of these players, but that's part of the reason why. It's just a little bit different. It's just a little bit different, and some guys can do both sides flawlessly. For others, it's a little bit of a struggle, and so that's why it's a big difference. And what's up, Black's Dad? Well, welcome to chat. Glad to have you here. Yeah, and I think that is one of the things to keep in mind. And when you're talking about Jalen Moore and Aaron Banks, they better get on it. And I think Justin Skule and Colton McKivitz as well. These guys come from different drafts. Of course, Justin Skule from 2019 and Colton McKivitz from 2020. But both of them are on the bubble. I mean, if Jalen Moore goes and takes the swing tackle job, which he has all the ability in the world to do, Justin Skule might find himself out. He might not be, a guy that can win. So that could be a real problem. And then you also have the potential of Colton McKivitz being gone. I mean, if they decide to go with Zakelj, if they decided to go with Burford, and Aaron Banks proves to be a good football player, there might not be room for Colton McKivitz again on the 53-man roster, and he could be gone. So I think that Colton McKivitz, Justin Skule are just as much at risk as Jalen Moore, Aaron Banks. And I honestly think Aaron Banks is the least likely to get cut of the guys that we've talked about because of the second-round designation. It's not something that's going to happen. So I think Banks is going to get every opportunity to be able to step up, and that will go even through this season. So potentially Aaron Banks, could start, or he could be one of these guys that's at the end of the depth chart. That's how much of a change it could be for him. And then with the other guys, it just depends on what their value is, and I think Brendel, Colton McKivitz, and Justin Skule, they've got a lot of young cats that are coming after him, and I think there's going to be a concern there whether they can make this roster or not. And I wouldn't be shocked if one or all of them don't make the team. That's how good this 49ers potential offensive line could be. I do really like Burford and Zakelj a lot. I think Burford's a really good football player, and I think that he's going to be aggressive, and he's going to be very physical at the point of attack. I like his attitude, and those are things that are a little bit different from Jalen Moore. Jalen Moore is a very good pass blocker, very efficient in the things that he does in that area, but struggles a little bit at the point of attack in the run. That's a reason they chose to go with Tom Compton over Jalen Moore last year. So that's something that Jalen Moore has to continue to improve. And if he can do it, then he's going to be one of those guys that's able to start in the NFL and start for the 49ers, because you have to be a run-first guy. That's something that Burford does a little bit better than Jalen Moore right now. We'll see what happens and what Moore's improvement is. And then Burford can get a little bit better in the passing game. So a little bit of a difference between the two. But I definitely like the way that both of them carry their weight. They're both really tall players, but have the nice, physical traits to be able to get after it. So I really do like both of them. I'm excited about Uh, Jalen Moore, Spencer Burford, and Nick Zakel. I think all those guys are very exciting, which is good news because we don't know what we're going to get out of Colton McKivitz, and Colton McKivitz hasn't really proven to be a starting caliber player in this league right now. Of course, you could always change that, but right now it's just not there. And so I think that's one of the things that we got to continue to monitor. This offensive line, what they could be is a lot of potential, and that's how it's going to have to play out because right now I think there's just two glaring holes. That left guard spot for sure, the glaring hole, and then of course the center spot. Center spot is a problem. Ronnie Montoya says, who makes a bigger impact on the offense first, TDP or Danny Gray? I think it'll be Danny Gray, and I think the reason being is Danny Gray being out there and being able to take the top off the defense. He doesn't even have to touch the football to be able to, scare defenses into going ahead and covering him. I don't think too many teams are going to want to take chances with Danny Gray running a vertical, through their zone or against one of their outside players without safety help. And if they do, that's on them. I mean, that's their problem. So I think that does give him the opportunity to make a bigger impact. Not so much maybe even with catches or with yards, but with actual influencing what the defense does and then creating for other people. Black says lots of good talk about Burford after rookie minicamp. Looking forward to camp battles. Yeah, definitely. I think that the camp battles are going to be really fun to watch. I think the offensive line is one of the hotbed places. Of course, defensive line as well. Just way too many talented players on the defensive side of the football, so that's going to be really fun. But the offensive one makes a lot of sense, and I'm definitely excited about some of these battles to see who's going to be starting at left guard, and then depending on what happens with Alex Mack, who's going to start at center. I hope Alex Mack comes back, and then we don't have that question, and then it's more of a battle between Jake Brendel, Donovan West, and Nick Zakel to see who's going to be the backup center. I think that's a good situation for the 49ers overall. San Francisco John says, I'm excited a bit more about Sam Womack for the defense. Sam Womack's an interesting player. I mean, they're really high on him. Talked about the fact that he's one of the best man-to-man guys in the draft. My problem with him, sometimes he gives up a lot of separation. He allows receivers to make catches underneath and then makes those plays. So, I mean, he's somebody to watch. I think that Samuel Womack is going to have an uphill battle to make this team, but I think that entire cornerback room is going to have to battle because those three top guys, if they're all healthy and stay healthy, they're on this roster, and then everyone else is battling for three spots. The fact that they used draft picks on Deommodore Lenoir, Ambry Thomas last year, and now they're using draft picks on Samuel Womack and Castro Fields this year. There's a lot of young players there, and all the while they brought back Dante Johnson and Darquez Dennard. So that's going to be one heck of a battle. A veteran's head could roll, and also some of these rookies could find themselves on the practice squad or playing for another football team. Android user says, is Danny Gray a stronger, taller Marquise Goodwin? He's about the same height, I believe, as Marquise Goodwin. He could be stronger. I don't know. One thing I know about Marquise Goodwin, he was extremely athletic. But I believe Danny Gray is a better football player than Marquise Goodwin. I think Goodwin was a track guy who played football. And I think when it comes down to it, Danny Gray's a football player who also has track speed. And I think there's a big difference there. Ronnie Montoya says, how many tight ends do we carry this year? I think that it's going to be three. I think it's going to be three tight ends. It'll be George Kittle, it'll be Charlie Warner, and then whoever wins the third spot. It'll either be Ross Dwelley or Jordan Matthews. Tommy Huxley says the sound is terrible. Thanks, or horrible. Thanks, Tommy. Appreciate it. Yeah, we're struggling with it. Sorry about that. But we're getting it. And what's up, D-Will? How's it going? So we're working through the audio issues. Really appreciate everyone for coming through. I'm sorry that you guys are struggling with it right now. We'll definitely work on getting this fixed after the show. But thank you so much for coming through and sticking it out with us as we are working through audio issues right now. So we had some changes go on, and now we're having some audio problems. But we'll work through it for sure. But thanks, everyone, for coming through. Tommy, thanks for coming through. I appreciate it. But, yeah, there's some big-time position battles that are going to be happening in training camp. Positions all over the field, running back room battles there. Lineman battles there, defensive line battles, defensive back corner position battle, safety battle. There's only a few positions where there's maybe not as many battles as you would think, and one of those positions is the wide receiver room. So I think wide receivers is a place there's not very many position battles. I think that one's pretty easy to figure out. And then I think linebacker is pretty easy to figure out. Maybe the last guy could, is it going to be Oren Burks, Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles, or the undrafted free agent Gamel is one of those guys will make the roster. I think it's easier to say Burks and Flanagan Fowles make it. So I think that's one of the things that to keep watching is some of these battles, and I'm looking forward to talking about these battles. I'm looking forward to talking about a lot of the the cool things that are going to happen with these as training camp. But there's still time for it, and thanks Jan for still being here. Appreciate that. There's going to be conversations all about training camp, and we're not quite there yet, but we're definitely working towards it. Paul Saunders says, anybody see Lombardi's piece on Drake Jackson with his dad? It was pretty fun. I have not got to see that. However, I did hear a lot of the comments coming from Drake Jackson about his father and his father being a Raiders fan. But the interaction seems cool, so I definitely want to check that out because I do like the fact that Drake Jackson and his dad were interacting the way that they were. So I'll have to go check that out, Paul. I definitely want to do that. Ronnie Montoya says, do you think Coach Kyle has Lance go under center or shotgun to start the season? I think it's going to be a combination of both. I think that's what they're going to do. I think they're going to they're going to be doing it both ways because Kyle's going to go out there and run his offense. He's just going to use Trey Lance's skill set to the best of his abilities. So I think that's how he's going to approach it and attack it, and hopefully that it works out, and I think it will. I think Trey Lance feels comfortable under center. I think he feels good in shotgun, and both ways are going to be good for him. So I think it's going to be fun. Yeah, David Campbell says Skill is going to have a tough time making the team. I agree. And we have a $2 super chat coming from Bobo. This will be the best team Kyle has ever fielded. I love that. Potentially, they have a lot of potential, and it could be the best, most talented team that he's had so far. If it's able to, be better than 2019, Warriors have a good opportunity to make it, very far in the playoffs, potentially make it to a Super Bowl. So I love that, Bobo. If this ends up being the best roster that Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have put together, then I'm very excited about, what could happen this season. And I think we're going to see a lot of that play out during training camp. We're going to see a lot of really, really good battles. But the good thing is there's not a lot of holes, and every other year we went in and we had conversations about, certain positions that still needed to be improved. And I think when you look at this 49ers offense and defense, there's only a couple of positions where you have questions about, and even then it's depth. Maybe safety position. Safety position could be a spot where if you're worried about Tarvarius Moore or Talanoa Hufanga, maybe you don't have a starter. So that could be one of the weaknesses. And of course, we have the questions along the offensive line. If Alex Mack retires, that definitely opens another hole. If he doesn't, then you have one hole to fill, and that's a left guard spot that Laken Tomlinson left. And that's one of those things where you definitely have a huge hole to fill. You went ahead and drafted Aaron Banks last year, and you're in the draft and development role, and potentially you could do that. So Bobo says the only thing is injuries. Yeah, that's true. Andrew just says, have we re-signed Tart? No, we haven't. I mean, Tart is still out there and available. I haven't seen anything that's come through, that says that he's going to be back with the San Francisco 49ers. And really, when it came down to it, John Lynch said they hadn't discussed him coming back, or at least talked about it, with him coming back. So, and thank you, D Will. Thank you, D Will, so much. $20 super chat just because. I really appreciate that so much, D Will. Thank you so much. You've been wonderful in chats. Big time member of the Cutback crew, so thank you so much for that gift. I really do appreciate it so much. Everyone coming through right now in chat, I'm appreciating you guys big time. You guys are hanging out, holding it down with me in this Cutback Colony as we're working through this, and I'm having a lot of fun interacting with all of you, talking about 49ers, because guess what? That's what we all like to do, right? And I think that when it comes down to it, there's going to be a lot of decisions that need to be made. And we Android user bringing up Jaquiski Tart. I mean, that's one of the things, and there's some people that agree that potentially, Jaquiski Tart should come back and start. And then there's others that think that, Talanoa Hufanga is ready. So I think this is one of those things where maybe Hufanga is ready. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens in training camp. I think if Hufanga improves, in some areas of his game, including in coverage, then he'll be good. And what's up, Cyrus? Welcome to chat. And I think that, that's one of the things that the 49ers can do really well is they can develop players. So if they believe that Talanoa Hufanga is a guy that they've developed and he's going to be able to help in the coverage game, we've seen them put him out there in some really tough situations, and they did it. So if they're able to do that, then that would be nice for the 49ers. But I don't know for sure. I mean, nothing in film, and I love Hufanga, don't get me wrong, but nothing in film has said to me that he's ready, to take over as a safety opposite of Jimmy Ward. And so I am one of those firm believers that I think that right now Jaquiski Tartt would be a very good option. The way that he played in the box and played in the run fits was at a high level. And I think he's one of those guys that just, I mean, really gets it, and he understands what this defense is trying to do. So I think that that's still a question mark for the San Francisco 49ers. It's a safety position. Is it if it's Tarvarius Moore? I have a few questions. I think I would have had less questions heading into 2020 than I did, heading into 2022, because I think going into 2020, we saw the things that were going on in the playoff run, that Super Bowl run. It seemed like Tarvarius Moore was fitting in and starting to make plays. But what happened was, and after the 2020 season, it was like his play dropped off a little bit. Tarvarius Moore and also Ross Dwelley. It seemed like they just fell off a little bit. So I'm hoping to see some improvement from both of them. And if Tarvarius Moore is able to step into that role, he has the ability to be a Jimmy Ward kind of player. The versatility to play in the nickel and be able to cover a third wide receiver, and then also to play the deep third or to come up in the box and fill with a run fit. I think both of those are things that he can do. But we'll see what happens there. See if that talent translates onto the field, because in 2020, even though Tart was injured, Tart's coverage skills were better than Tarvarius Moore. So that's something that we got to take into account. So that's one of the questions that still faces the 49ers for sure. And what is up, Markall? Welcome to chat. Really appreciate that. I'm excited. I'm excited about this team and the potential, and I'm excited about potentially them keeping Trey Lance upright. And if Trey Lance can stay upright and this offensive line can protect him, then he's going to have a lot of ability and opportunity to get the ball down the field. If he can get the ball down the field, and we had the question earlier about Danny Gray. That's why I think Danny Gray is going to have an impact on this team. But I also believe that's where Trey Lance has his impact on the team as well. So I think Trey Lance being able to throw the ball really far is going to scare a few people into believing that he's going to take shots down the field. And the fact that you've given him a weapon to go with Brandon Ayuk as a possible deep threat is going to put the fear of God in some defensive coordinators, and they're going to have to make some decisions. Do you want to bring up that eighth guy into the box and take the chance of potentially allowing Danny Gray or Brandon Ayuk or Tebow Samuel to get behind the defense and make a big play for a touchdown to go ahead and stop Kyle Shanahan in this run game? Or, are you going to just go ahead and play it safe and keep everyone back and let everything happen in front of you? And in those cases, if Trey Lance can take the on-schedule throws and get the ball out on time, then the 49ers are going to be able to just continually move the sticks. That will wear down the defense. That will continue to create a lot of opportunities for the 49ers offense, and they'll score a lot of points. And that's the thing. That's the whole name of the game, being able to move the football while scoring points. So I'm definitely excited about that potential and what the 49ers can do. So I'm looking forward to Trey Lance being the quarterback if that's what happens, and I think everyone fully believes it. But I think part of the reason that it's even more exciting is because the opportunity to go down the field with some of these big time weapons. I think that's what the 49ers did during the offseason, going ahead and adding Danny Gray and adding Ray Cloud are going to give the 49ers some opportunities to make plays. So I'm really excited about all of it. And the thing with the D. Will says, that's right, Ant. No more loading the box. This team is going to take top off the defenses. That's exactly right. That's going to change things. I mean, everyone came in and completely loaded the box against Kyle Shanahan. I mean, we saw it in the NFC Championship game. The Rams came in there and said, "Hey, we're going to take away this run game. We're not going to let you do anything in the run." And the 49ers couldn't beat them in the past. They just weren't good enough to be able to get it done on that day. Could have been Jimmy's injuries. I mean, that definitely didn't help. Seeing George Kittle wide open didn't help. I think some of that could be the injuries, but you're not going to have to worry about that with Trey Lance because he can definitely get it down the field. And then Jag with the $2 super chat says, which lineman could be this team's Adam Snyder in your opinion? I think it's going to be one of the young guys. I do. I think it's going to be one of the young rookies. I think that it could be Spencer Burford. I really like Spencer Burford, and I like his potential. I think he could be the guy that steps in and is able to make some waves. And I value him enough that I think he can go in there and compete with Aaron Banks. I think he's going to push Aaron Banks really hard for a starting spot. So I'm very excited about about Spencer Burford and what he could do. So I think he could be that guy. And then Bobo with a $2 super chat says, O-line good, but young Trey can avoid sacks as well. Exactly, and that's going to be a big part of it. A big part of the reason Kyle Shanahan wanted to get Trey Lance was not just the fact that he felt that he was going to be able to play the position the way he wants a quarterback to play it. which is in the pocket with on-schedule throws, rhythm passing game, being able to mentally understand all aspects of his offense, knowing where wide receivers are going to be, where they're going to be sitting down in zone, and then going through his progressions to get rid of the ball. But also the ability to extend plays when all hell breaks loose and everything breaks down. That is one thing that Kyle Shanahan has said that he hasn't really had, is a guy that can do both. And if you have that, then you have an elite quarterback in this league. And if that's what Trey Lance can do, then I think you would be excited about it. And I think Trey Lance can extend plays. The thing is, when he extends plays, the offensive line has to understand, where he's going to be and what he's going to do, because we saw against Arizona when he was extending plays and he was running around and not getting the ball out on schedule. The adjustment from Jimmy Garoppolo to Trey Lance created holding calls, and that's one of the things that 49ers are definitely going to have to watch. Their offensive line is definitely not built to be, straight pass blocking all the time. So I think that right now that's something that they're going to keep working on, but practicing and playing with Trey Lance all through the offseason and preseason is definitely going to help. Andrew Hughes says, what's your prediction for starters at O-line, assuming Matt comes back? If Matt comes back, I'm going to go ahead and put out there, I think, of course, Mack is center, right guard Daniel Brunskill, right tackle Mike McGlinchey, left tackle Trent Williams, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say Spencer Burford comes in as a rookie and beats out Aaron Banks and takes a left guard spot. I haven't even seen him play NFL football. I like his mentality. I like his aggressiveness. I like how he gets after it. I know, I've heard people say Colton McKivitz. I've heard people say Aaron Banks. I'm going to go with Spencer Burford, but I would actually hope it would be Banks because Banks had the highest draft pick, but I'm going to go out on a limb. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's Burford. And Andrew just says, wow, Burford that good. Burford's that good. Burford made our top 50 players. He's one of those guys that's very exciting to watch. He has really good technique. He could have definitely played at a Power 5 conference, a really big team in college, and he decided to stay there. So I think that he's a big-time player, and I'm curious to see how he develops. But him and Banks are going to be going at it, and I think Colton McKivitz has to be thought about in that spot as well. Colton McKivitz has the experience factor. Banks has the overall ability factor, but I think Burford might actually have it all together to be able to get it. Paul Snyder says Burford's got a nasty streak. He likes to put people on the ground and jump on top. Yeah, that's exactly why I like him. I like the bully mentality coming from the offensive line, and Spencer Burford definitely provides a bully mentality. That was one thing I liked about him and Zakel. Both of them this year have a mean streak. Colton McKivitz has a mean streak as well. So these are guys and kind of players that the 49ers definitely like to employ. And I think Spencer Burford is going to be one of those guys that's going to go out there and want to prove it. He's got a chip on his shoulder. He's going to go out there and be really aggressive. I think he's got a lot of talent. I think he has the potential to start at left guard. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they end up putting him somewhere else, but I would definitely love that. I would definitely love for Burford to be able to go in there and do it and stabilize this left guard spot for years to come. But that would mean that Banks isn't the left guard. Would Banks then eventually become the right guard over Daniel Brunskill? Could we see an opportunity where Brunskill actually gets beat out? Those. I think that's one of the things that's going to be fun. I think Brunskill is pretty secure, but I would love that. I would absolutely love that if Daniel Brunskill got beat out. That would mean this offensive line ascended to another level. And, and one of these guys could end up playing right tackle eventually once McGlinchey leaves, but right now moving in, I definitely think that would be exciting. So I'm loving that. Paul says, and it sounds like he went to UTSA just because it was close to his house. Yeah, and he talked about the fact that the coach sold him on, turning around that program, making it something big for his town, being from that area in Texas and the San Antonio area and really trying to build it up. And so he took it as an opportunity to go in there and do that. Got to stay close to home and play tough. And when it came down to it, he played really well against really good competition. If you go back and watch the game film, I mean, he's good. He's aggressive. I really like him a lot. It's kind of like one of those guys that you wonder why he wasn't at a big-time school, and it's really just because it's his own choosing. He could have went to a lot of places and been a big-time football player and potentially a higher draft pick if he'd have played against what they consider better competition. But he's a guy, when you watch the skills and techniques, he does a really good job. I think he's going to be one of those guys that I like. And you're right. I do love Bruce Lee. Chuck Norris all day long. Gotta love Chuck. KNDR says, my best friend Spencer Burford. Yeah, KNDR, what's up? You and Spencer Burford right from the same area. Burford, I think he's going to be a guy that 49er fans end up really, really liking. I think he's got a lot of ability. I like the way he carries himself. I like the little aggressiveness, but the humbleness as well is something nice. Forkall says, I'm praying Brunskill gets beat out. That would mean good things for no doubt. Yeah, if Brunskill gets beat out, that means his 49ers offensive line in a better position than we could have ever imagined. That means not only did they, get it done, but they improved. You know, what I mean, and that would be crazy to think, right? That they improved the offensive line losing Laken Tomlinson. Laken Tomlinson has been a stabilizing force at the left guard spot. Replacing him isn't going to be easy, but if they're able to do it and they're able to improve this offensive line, it's going to be tough to beat the 49ers. Andrew Diaz says we need Brunskill at least twice a year when we go against Aaron Donald. Does handle Aaron Donald, and they started moving Aaron Donald at Laken Tomlinson last year. And I think that's what they're going to continue to do. They're going to move Aaron Donald away from Daniel Brunskill. So Brunskill probably won't be blocking Aaron Donald as much as he used to. They're moving him around. Paul Saunders says Burford kind of a baby-faced assassin. He does. He looks like a power forward. You know, he looks like he could have just came out of high school, drafted to play in the NBA. That's his body type. But when you see him on the field, he moves nice and he's got a lot of fluidity in his hips. A good bend when he's making his blocks. I mean, this guy's got some skills. I like what I've seen so far, and I'm looking forward to seeing even more. Paul Saunders says Brunskill makes a nice swing lineman. He does. If Paul Saunders is right and Brunskill becomes a swing lineman, I know you didn't quite say that, Paul, but if that was to happen, that would be the best situation for the Niners. Brunskill can play all five positions. He's got that versatility. So does Nick Zakel. So having guys with that kind of versatility to be able to play all five spots is a good situation, and I really like that. David Campbell says Tomlinson's best ability was availability. That's true. That was the thing about Laken Tomlinson. You knew that every single week that you could look to the left of whatever center was playing, and there was going to be Laken Tomlinson. He was going to go out there and he was going to give you good snaps, and he was going to get after it and work it really hard. And so, I mean, I think that's something that, the 49ers are definitely going to miss, and hopefully one of these young guys is going to be able to do the same thing. Jack says, Coach, do you think Trey at quarterback Will Shanahan will be able to diversify the run game? Sometimes it seems to get set on forcing the run, even if teams are 8 in the box. Yeah, he's going to diversify the run game for sure. I think one of the things that Trey's going to be able to do is freeze defensive players. He's going to freeze their eyes and then also get their attention on him because they have to be able to adjust to what he's doing. If he's running a read option, for instance, and that running back is going across the quarterback's face this way, Trey Lance is going to have his eyes on that edge defender, and then the linebacker is more than likely going to be reading him too. You do not want to allow Trey Lance to be able to get around the outside and create with those legs. But what he's going to do is freeze those guys and create open holes and opportunities for the running back to cut up the field. And so it should make it a little bit easier. And in fact, the 49ers could potentially run against an 8-man box because Trey Lance's effect on that box. I think it would be really nice if the 49ers could develop an RPO system as well. When that linebacker commits to the run, when that edge rusher commits to the run, especially the linebacker, though, you influence some of that RPO look, that run look, and then you have the pass option coming out of it where you're able to hit George Kittle and those guys, and that could really affect the game. So I think that's something that the Niners can employ and take advantage of, and it would change the way the defenses play against the 49ers. They wouldn't be able to bring 8 guys in the box. And if they do it at your own risk. And if one of these running backs is able to break free, that's going to be a big carry. So Trey Lance is definitely going to help the 49ers in that area. I definitely agree with that. Brunskill as depth would be an ideal, no doubt. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Andrew just said Steph Curry playing O-line now. Not O-line. I mean, I think when it comes to Spencer Burford, he's a big dude. I mean, 6'6", 316 pounds is not small. That's a big dude. So I think Burford's going to go out there and get it done, and he's going to be a very physical threat. Thank you. I'm sorry about that. We got some bad audio going on. I appreciate it. But I think the 49ers are going to continue to work with this offensive line and develop them. And if they can work these guys all the way through, I'm potentially going to be excited about it. And I think that maybe the 49ers have found the guys that are going to fill the roles through Trey Lance's rookie pay scale. They've brought in some young guys that I think have a lot of potential. In fact, I'm higher on the 2 guys they got this year than I am on the ones they got last year, and definitely higher than I was on Colton McKivitz in 2020. So I think that they're continuing to bring guys in. I'm really excited about that opportunity. And I think the 49ers can continue to build this line around Trey Lance and potentially have something going there. But they stuck to the tried and true method in this draft. They went ahead and got offensive tackles that could slide inside. So I think that this is something they're going to continue to do. They're going to bring in guys that play tackle and have versatility to play guard. That way they always have guys that can move inside and out. But what you're seeing is that athletic ability. And we didn't even bring up Jason Poe. Jason Poe is one of those guys that gets it done, and he's very, very fast feet. So I'm excited about the potential of Jason Poe and seeing what he can develop also in the interior offensive line. But go ahead and ask any questions you got. I'm gonna stay around for the next like 5 minutes or so before I hop off and try to figure out what the heck is going on with this audio situation. But if you have questions, I'm more than happy to get through it in my robot voice, of course. Mr. Roboto here doing the Cutback Colony today. So there you go. I doubt all of you expected to hear Mr. Roboto, but you got him anyway. So I hope you're excited about that. And I think that when it comes down to this offensive line, one of the key things is going to be how this depth plays out, because David brought up earlier that the depth could potentially be better than any the depth that we saw, and if they're really improving this roster depth wise at all positions, that means also special teams is getting better. And so I think that's one thing that to continue to watch is how much better special teams gets, how much better the 49ers play when they do suffer an injury, if they're able to kind of shield themselves. And Android user says, any updates on Jimmy? Will he be cut next couple weeks? When he'll really go on the clock is when he can potentially be cut. So once he passes, his physical and he's able to be moved, I think that's when we're really going to get the Jimmy talk, because that's when teams will be willing to trade for him. He's cleared. He's proven he can throw the football, and the 49ers know they don't have to incur the $8 million. So I think that's something that we'll watch with Jimmy. And Bobo says, will you be disappointed if we don't make the NFC Championship game again? I will. I'm always disappointed if the 49ers don't make it all the way to the Super Bowl. I think that's normal fandom. You want the 49ers to be able to go as far as they can go and get it done. So I'm excited about their potential, but potential doesn't mean anything. You have to go prove it on the field. I'm hoping they can do it. But yeah, I would love to see them in the NFC Championship game, because that left a bad taste in our mouth for sure. I mean, that wasn't a fun game to watch. I'm super excited about the potential, but this depth and this team's got to go get it done for sure. So we'll see what they do. Let's see. Paul Saunders said, hey, I just got some information. The national media, by that I mean Rich Eisen actually had some quality things to say about Trey Lance today. Very refreshing. Well, it's good to hear that somebody's saying something nice about Trey Lance. And with all the negative conversation that's been coming about Trey Lance and how he's not going to be ready, and that potentially, they're going to roll a Jimmy Garoppolo, it's nice to hear that, somebody in the national media is taking time to look at the good things that Trey's doing and talk about it. So I'm interested to hear those statements that came from Rich Eisen. I like Rich Eisen, so I'm definitely going to check that out, Paul. Candy R said, what's the best Nintendo 64 wrestling game? Ooh, that's a good one. I think it's probably got to be the NWO versus WCW. I think that was what it was called. I really liked that game a lot. No Mercy was also really good, so I would go with those two. I think those were really good games. Let's see. The special teams will be better, but will someone be at a home run threat on special teams? I think right now it's expected to be Ray McCloud. Ray McCloud's expected to be that returner, and it's not going to take a lot. Yes, revenge, and that's what it was. NWO, WCW revenge. Thanks, Bobo. It's not going to take a lot to improve that return game. That return game was not very good last year. All the conversation about Brandon Ayuk being that that guy that was going to take a return game to another level, it didn't work out. So I think the Niners are just going to roll with Ray McCloud, and I think he's going to give them something they really haven't had so far. So I am interested to see how he looks catching the football. And really, right now, I don't see a backup besides potentially Ambry Thomas. And then Bobo says we had the Rams dead to rights for sure. Dropped an INT and bonehead personal foul penalties cost us. You got to keep your head in the game. That's what happens. Momentum can change in a heartbeat. And that was unfortunate to Christy Tart drop that football. But there was lots of other areas in which the 49ers could have made a play and won that game too. So even though Tart wears it, it was a team effort losing that game. And there was other plays that could have been made all over the field. And one of the personal fouls is one of those. So sometimes you've got to make the right decisions, and when you don't, it affects your team. And I think Tart's always going to catch the heat for that, but he's not the only one that made mistakes. And I think when all of them look in the mirror, they all understand that. Let's see. David Campbell says, Eisen basically said there's no way that Lance isn't the starter regardless of Jimmy's being there or not. Yeah, I think that's kind of the thought process for sure, that he's going to be the starting quarterback. And Andrew says if Trey is at least decent. Is there any reason to think we won't be in the NFC West frontrunners? I think as long as he can handle his business and be able to operate, the offense the way Kyle Shanahan deems fit, then I think, yeah, they can win football games. I don't think he has to be great in his first year for them to be able to win. So I'm definitely excited about that potential. So we'll see. We'll see if Trey Lance can be that guy. I think he can. Jack says, Coach, it seems that Shanahan is building his new young O-line that will grow together with Trey Lance if Trent Williams gets a bit nicked up, would replace him for a game or two. Yeah, I think he is building an offensive line that's going to be there through the entirety of Trey Lance's rookie contract for sure, and maybe even further beyond. Is getting athletic guys who have an aggressive streak who can really get after it in the run game, and that's going to produce opportunities in the play action game. And he went in and got Danny Gray that he can take advantage of that play action game by getting the ball down the field. I do think they're building this team around Trey Lance, and that's one of the things you need to do when you have a big athletic quarterback. Make sure you have a big athletic line that can move around with them, and I think that's one of the things they're doing. But I like the emphasis on guys who love football, but they're aggressive in nature. They like to get after it, and those bully mentality guys are guys that are not passive and they're physical. They go take it to people, and that's something that can be measured, is that ability to go out there and really get after it. I like that. Lewis has just arrived home. Did we discuss the Mac mystery tonight? We went over it a little bit, but I mean, really, what it comes down to, Lewis, we still don't know anything about what Alex Mack is going to do. I'm really hoping Alex Mack decides to come back. I'm starting to waver on whether he's coming back or not, but I'm hoping that he does. I think this offensive line is way different if you have Alex Mack playing center. So I'm excited about that. And Donald Johnson says, I wouldn't be surprised if Gray gets a chance returning punts or kickoffs. With 4.3 speed, I think there's always an opportunity. If he can go out there and prove it, that's something he wants to do. I'm pretty sure the 49ers will be willing to let him do that, because that's tremendous ability. That's game-breaking ability right there. I actually like that they got young O-line that grows with Lance. Me too. I do. And I think that's why they made it an effort to get centers that potentially could grow with Trey Lance as well. Alex Mack potentially 1 year. And then after that, Donovan West, Nick Zakel, one of those guys can man the center position, hopefully for the remainder of the tenure of Trey Lance as a starting quarterback for the 49ers. And what's up, Freddie McDre? Welcome to chat. I think that, right now the Niners are doing what they should do. And they went and got some gems. I mean, these guys are good football players. I know they were, fourth and sixth round pick, but they went and got some really good football players. Pick 134, pick 187. Burford and Zakel are good players. I think they're going to help this line. And if you missed it earlier, I went out on a limb, and I think Burford's going to push for that left guard spot. I won't be surprised if Burford doesn't start at the left guard spot, next to Alex Mack or whoever ends up being that center. So I'm excited about this offensive line and that potential. I was really excited about this episode. Sorry, everyone, that we had a little bit of struggles with the audio. But thanks, everyone, for coming through and hanging out all the way to the end. I really had a good time. And, we're going to be doing a live Q&A tomorrow. Make sure you guys come through Thursday, 5 o'clock. Bring your questions. Anything you guys want to talk about, I'm open to talking about it all. It's going to be a really fun one. Thank you guys for coming through. I enjoyed it. Had a good time. Catch you guys on the next one. Out.